Marcus, you're going to be watching the start of the season, which is incredibly rare. So I think I've done this right. You've only missed 8 games since you debuted. You've played 240 out of 248. And I think you've played 136 of 137. So this is going to be a very foreign experience for you watching on.
Yes, no, thanks for the reminder, Jared. It does take a little bit, obviously, to process in the short term. There's no doubt I've prided myself on the durability aspect. I think it is, not necessarily an underrated aspect, but it's an important one. Players who are able to sort of turn up consistently and be there sort of, rain, hail or shine. And I've always prided myself on that. So it is disappointing. I think I've processed that disappointment pretty quickly and sort of moved into how can I utilise this time a little bit differently? What maybe from a coaching perspective or from an experience perspective, I can maybe add to some of the guys who are going to get some exposure now with, as you said, unfortunately, a bit of a stacked injury list. But you have to, I think you're pretty good at adapting your mindset to different scenarios, and that'll be probably no different for me this week.
Did you know you're in strife straight away?
Not really, and as you sort of heard from the club, like the initial findings for us or from a field perspective were maybe that it would be a smaller one than probably a larger stint on the sidelines, and that's probably why I looked a little bit more comfortable and a bit laissez-faire, and it was just sort of walking around and quite comfortable that the right thing was to come out of the game in preparation for our round 1 game, which would be this week. So the scan did obviously show more damage than we thought, but you just like I said, you got to react and adapt to whatever the current situation is and not buy into what it isn't and more of what it is.
The language, I guess, around it, we've all done calves and they're pretty straightforward. The language around this one is that it's a bit complex, and we spoke to you today as well. Can you expand on that? Or like the belly of a calf is the calf, but the complexity around the tendon, or?
I can and I can't because, my simplistic view of it is to probably not, be able to name the certain aspects of the calf that you need to know in order to diagnose it. It's more the fact that it's one that's sort of quite deep within the muscle that's going to take some time, and that's hence why the timeline is what it is. So the nature of it being obviously different to your standard regulation calf is probably accurate, and hence why the timeline is what it is. The important thing is that to give it the right amount of time to heal, so that obviously there's no hiccups in the future. And for me, it's after the 5 or 6 week period, and away we go.
Yeah. So have you got a date ringed, or are you not able quite to do that yet?
Yeah, I mean, the 5 to 6 week period is, I guess, where I'm sort of sticking the flag in the ground. Now, I'll continue to assess things as we go, throughout the period, but it probably won't be any time before that. It is probably what's clear, somewhere around that window, and that will depend on maybe how we go the next couple of weeks, but, we can't see it happening any quicker than that. Marcus,
the summer's had its challenges, and Jamarra Ugle-Hagan, it's been very public. It's public again tonight. They're missing a couple of days of training. How aware are you of this current scenario?
Yeah, no, I'm aware of it. Obviously, I've been at the football club the last couple of days, and I think it just continues to speak to the delicacy in which we try and handle every person at the football club and prioritise their obviously health and well-being. And I'll sound somewhat similar to probably how I've answered these questions in the past, because the support for Jamarra is A1 as a person before it is a footballer, and obviously the challenges that have been sort of documented are we're obviously still processing and dealing, and it's why I guess his sort of return to full training has been staged to allow for him to, be able to, sort of segment things and work through the challenges that he has. So, of course, I'm aware of it. I spend, a lot of time talking to him to try and help him from, more a personal level than a football level. And we just continue to sort of work through the process sort of week to week.
Have you got this is delicate and hard, do you feel like you've got a full understanding of the issue with Jamarra? There's a complexity around all sorts of things, mental health, whatever that may be, but do you feel that you've got the best understanding of what it is that is making it difficult for him to commit to the pressures and rigours of football?
Yeah, I do, and obviously, you know, I won't go into extreme
No, that's
detail.
fair.
Really, you know, a lot at all, because it's a personal thing. I understand there's public interest, and we've got, as a football club, due diligence to talk to it, you know, on whatever level we can. But the priority is, you know, he's a young human being who's really working through obviously some challenges in his personal space. And, you know, there's no doubt at different times you get frustrated by sometimes the drudging up of things that are historical and then brought into relevance now. And as I said, I get it. I get the landscape. I've been in it for a long period of time. It doesn't make it any easier to sort of talk about it. And as I said, with the delicacy of things, all I can say is that there's a lot of people putting in a lot of hard work to support him. I'm doing that. There's a lot of people at the football club and outside the football club who are doing their best to help him, and so is he. So, you know, it's a tough one, but it's just the world we live in at the minute.
Last one for me on it. There comes a time, though, when the footy's not the priority, it's the player and the issues. Is that where it sits now? Footy's down the track here?
Yeah, well, it has been. That's been sort of our MO for months now, really, to be honest. Like,
there was a narrative, though, that maybe he would back and, you know, he'd been at training regularly and that perhaps it was going to be clear air.
Yeah, no, there was a narrative that he was back, but that was sort of as he continued to expose himself back into, I guess, conditioning to even talk about playing. There is still no timeline, and that's with Jamarra's best interests at heart, you know. And you know, like I said, the support aspect's number one. The football aspect is still, you know, we're not really even discussing a timeline. No, like I said, I get it. I'll field the questions. We all will, but sometimes the answer is going to remain the same, I think, and until you know, he and the club feels like things are in a place where we can even consider that.
Are you optimistic that he'll get to a point where he can fulfil his immense football potential?
No, I am. I'm, you know, always sort of glass half full. I think that's how we should be, and we'll do everything we can on our end to make sure he's given every opportunity that he needs, you know, on and off the field. You know, I don't think I can answer it any more plainly than that.
Challenges of captaincy, Toby. I'm not, you know, I don't want you to comment on this one, obviously, because it's, you know, outside of your area, but you've also had challenges as the skipper of this football club over the last 6 months even. You can't really anticipate what gets thrown up to you. How do you stay true to yourself as a leader?
Yeah, well, I guess being out of sort of the Melbourne spotlight, you may be not dealing with as many sort of external issues as what some of the Melbourne captains you have to deal with. But I guess you're just trying to get the backing of your playing group, and, you know, trying to have as close relationship with as many as you can, and staff around you. What goes on outside of that's, you know, I can't control. So that's sort of where it starts and where it finishes for me, and trying to, you know, be the best person and teammate I can be.
The coach's scenario, Marcus, so you're going to live a case study with a coach in the final year of his contract. Gaz thinks this is exactly what should happen, and clubs are so averse to this. How do you think it'll pan out?
I mean, I'm going to, again, sit on the hopeful side of if things go forward, obviously, with Bevo, but you understand the reality of things, of not just the football narrative, but obviously everything that falls outside of that. You know, obviously he and I, on a personal level, have probably, definitely in my time, the strongest sort of coach-player relationship that I've had, and it's been through a lot. It's been through some great ups. It's had its challenges and had its downs. But, you know, I guess from my perspective, the focus is a football focus. You know, you understand the issues like the ones we're probably talking about today are always going to be there, but sort of in the periphery. So ultimately, you know, it's from his perspective, I know he'll be all locked in on coaching and in the best way he can influence the group with the rest of our coaching group. And I guess me holding up my end of the bargain is doing everything, you know, that Toby sort of said and I said, to make sure the group's as connected as possible, and you support every layer of it.
Is this just bad luck, this injury list that we're looking at? Can you make any rhyme or reason of it?
Not probably at this stage. It's probably still too soon to evaluate any of it. All I will say is it's easy to be critical in scenarios like this and sort of go with what your first instinct is well, there's a few older blokes in there and a few other bits and pieces that have sort of crept in, but it's all been through an appetite to evolve certain aspects of our game, and you know, I know a few years ago we were criticised of not training enough or not doing certain things by the letter of the law to other things. And you know, I don't think this is a reaction to that, but I certainly feel like in a pursuit to try and evolve yourself physically and condition yourself the best you can, there's going to be things like this. So, yep, not ideal, but I think that's how you look at it in the short term and process the longer term stuff as you go.